The Big Footy Port Adelaide podcast is proudly sponsored by New Vision.
My team, kinda power. I love the power. I love the power.
Hi everyone, Macca 19 here, and you are listening to the Big Footy Port Adelaide podcast on Port Fan Radio. Joining me as always, we got Fishing Rick. How are you, mate?
You blew my eardrum out. I think I'm deaf. What's going on there?
What are you doing?
Oh, I was just sort of laying here waiting for you to start, and I think I was drifting off. The next minute, I got this big loud intro blowing my eardrum out, but that's good. I need to wake up. I'm sort of a bit flat after yesterday.
Yes, very disappointing, wasn't it?
Yes, bit of an understatement, but there's always next week.
There is. There's always next year as well. And look, for the first time on the podcast, we are speaking with SaintChris. How are you, mate?
Very well, thanks, guys. How are you?
Very well. Welcome aboard.
Thank you very
Macca,
much.
where's the upload? How come it's not on iTunes yet?
I love it. I love it.
That's
We thought
me.
we'd bring him on to stop the complaints this week.
I'll still complain tomorrow morning.
No doubt, because I'll still probably forget to do the RSS feed.
No, it's all good. It's all good. It's just I need something to listen to on the train, and I hate using my mobile data up. So,
Fair enough. Fair enough too. Well, look, as it's your first time on the podcast, can you give us a bit of a history of your Port supporting background, mate?
yeah, sure. Not anything too exciting. I grew up in the southern suburbs in a non-traditional Port Adelaide home. Dad being a Nord fan, Mum being a Woodville Woodpeckers or Warriors fan, and we weren't one of those families that would go to the footy, but we always watched on TV. Fortunately, my two older brothers were drawn into the Maggies by their neighbours, who were family next door who were quite rabid Port Adelaide fans. So I got sucked into that as well, which was great because it would have probably been me following South or Glenelg or one of those other teams. Always been a Maggies fan since I was young. Only I sort of got to going to games in person when Port joined the AFL. So always gone to a couple of games a year until this year. I thought, along with my brother Alex, who you've probably seen on the forums and on the Twitter, we both signed up for memberships. So trying to get to as many games as I can now.
Nice work.
So what did what did you guys think of the new haircut from Jasper, by the way?
I didn't
Pretty
see
ordinary,
it.
to be honest.
I couldn't
Was it
tell.
in between cut? He sort of trimmed it, but didn't commit, and it's sort of like
Waste of time.
50-year-old woman's perm. I was thinking, what the hell's going on here? Just commit. Cut it.
That's
Oh,
it.
now I've got to look it up. I couldn't tell from up where we were, so I just, what is he, number 29?
Yeah.
I just look. I can tell Jasper because he's dodging players that aren't there, and I don't look for his haircut, no.
I'd like, if anyone's listening, I'd like to tweet in with an opinion on what they thought of Jasper's hairy. Obviously, he took Ken's advice, but he didn't take it all the way, and he only did a half-assed effort of cutting it.
Is there a photo of that somewhere?
No,
There's probably one up on AFL photos. I'm sure there'd be a shot of him.
I'll have a look later.
Yeah, as we said, send in your tweets to hashtag PortFanRadio. We want to know whether we want to, or whether we're going to actually make and impact the finals from here this year, or is it time to bring out the nails and seal shut the coffin that is season 2015?
I'm interested to hear the opinions too.
Well, look, let's do our love and hate, which is one thing we loved, one thing we hated about Port Adelaide this week. Rick, mate, I might start with you.
I love the crowd, Macca. I was excited. I was a bit of a pessimist with the crowd. I thought maybe only 38,000 would show. I was really reluctant in thinking we would get a good crowd figure because I didn't think Richmond was going to travel too well because of the time slot. And I thought it might be a bit of a tough crowd for our crowd as well. But the we've been pretty resilient this year and pretty resilient with the Sunday afternoon time slot as well. So I was really impressed with what we delivered there, and the crowd should be or the people that attended should be quite proud of themselves, which sort of segues straight into my hate, which is the pessimism of our supporter base. I can't believe what 2008 and to 2012 has actually done to the psyche of us as a supporter group, because post-game, supporters already joking around or saying, oh, shit, we're going to have to bring out the tarps and everything else. I don't see why we would be so pessimistic about that. Our crowd numbers have been fantastic and we're going through a bit of a dip, but geez, people, we need to lighten up a little bit and just keep positive and support the team, and it will turn. That's
it. There's a lot of doomsdayers at the moment, and it's doing my head in a little bit. You've got to keep the faith, and hopefully the wheel will turn back in our favour sometime this year.
Absolutely.
We got a tweet from Nicholas Teal, who said, what happened to his headband? That was his trademark. Obviously talking about Jasper.
Well, he doesn't need it anymore because he's cut his hair. He's got like a bloody half-hearted bowl cut or something going on.
Wasn't pretty. It was pretty ugly.
I might have to text him and go, Jasper, what's going on with your hair, man?
What is happening? What is going on here? Well, look, Chris, what was your love and hate, mate?
Rick just stole my thunder. My love was the fact... Well, my love was to do with the crowd, and I don't mind a twilight game if it's going to be on a Sunday. But I took my 11-year-old daughter to the first game of footy she's ever seen, and this is a girl that would rather see, Taylor Swift or, I don't know, unicorns or something like that. So she was not keen on really going, but she decided she'd come along, and by all accounts, she absolutely loved it. So being a fairly good full house, just about, for a Port game, it was pretty good crowd. She soaked in the atmosphere. She went and got herself a Port Adelaide cap, which she was keen to wear. Got a photo taken next to Robbie Gray's cutout in the game day village.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was good too. It was good just to see a little bit of watching the game through her eyes and from her perspective, and made me enjoy a pretty ordinary game of football slightly more.
No doubt.
Well, our crowd didn't actually do us any favours with with not getting Sunday games, because if we keep pulling 45,000 on a Sunday arvo, they'll keep giving them to us. And I was actually saying to Macca yesterday that I've got a bit of a theory that really the Sunday late game should be involving two Victorian sides, like the Melbourne Bulldogs game yesterday, because no team has to travel, and so it makes it a bit more convenient for supporters to get to the game. But obviously it's nothing to do with supporters, and it's all about TV ratings, apparently.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the Sunday twilight time slot was a massive failure last year in Victoria, so I doubt we'll see too many Victorian teams getting that time slot again, to be honest.
Yeah, but was it a failure with the ratings, or was it a failure just with attendances? That's the million-dollar question.
I think all of the above, I think.
Right.
But you never know. We'll see what happens. And Chris, what was your hate, mate?
Lots to hate, but I'll pick... what do I hate? What do I hate more? I hate having Carlton every second Friday night. And you watch them lose. So, I mean, I don't watch Friday night footy now, so that's the end of that. While on the Saturday night, there's, two top six teams playing off in decent games of football. The other
it's not right, is it?
No, the other hate I have is I just hate losing to Richmond, and I hate that I've had The Eye of the Tiger by Katy Perry stuck in my head all day long. But for no reason.
I'd rather lose to Richmond now than in the finals.
Yeah, well, that's a shit
True.
To make the finals.
I'd prefer to make the finals and then see who we face and then decide if I want to lose or not, to be honest. But,
yeah.
That's it. Well, look, we've had a few tweets in already. Nicholas Teal again says, we're on the up and up. I can't see us losing anymore until we get past the bye round. Which is very confident there. I love that. And good old Porsche has tweeted in a couple of tweets. The first one says, when do we get key position forwards? Which is a fair question. And the second one was in response to Chris. If I could choose between seeing unicorns or Portloos, I would definitely pick unicorns.
Another unicorn lover.
Love it. Well, look, my love this week has to be the RAA Lounge. We were in there yesterday, Rick, with Andre and Nick, the two competition winners.
Yes.
And look, I had a fantastic time. It's a brilliant setup they've got there. You've got a bird's eye view of the stadium from the northwestern pocket. There's a constant stream of food coming out, which was very good food for catering food. Drinks available all game. It was a brilliant setup. You got a great view of the ground. I definitely want to be going back to that. If I could choose between that and the locker room, if you could take out the actual seeing, the players train before the game element, I think the RAA Lounge wins hands down.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the RAA Lounge. I think the locker room's good for the novel experience of seeing it once, but I think repeat. And I think the seats of the locker room really let it down overall. But hospitality-wise in the lounge, it's fantastic. It's not like they're trying to slow burn the drinks. They've got drinks on hand 24/7, haven't they?
Yeah, basically, they as soon as you finish one, there's another one that pops up in your hand. They bring them around. It's fantastic.
And it helps numb the pain of losing.
It certainly does. As it did yesterday.
And what did you hate, man?
My hate is our goal kicking. Once again, it's our goal kicking. It's a bugbear of mine. I've spoken about it numerous times on this podcast over the last 18 months. And look, I've got some stats. In our winning streak last year, we kicked 181 goals and 137 behind, so 56% we kicked at. Since the Sydney loss last year, we've kicked at 48%. And look, in losses in that time, we've kicked at 43%. So I just want to know what's actually going wrong here. When was the last time Schultz kicked a goal to, get us back into a game? Wingard missed a sitter that, he just had to eat up as well. And, we've just got a heap of players who can't kick the crucial goal to help change the game back in our favour at the moment. And, to be frank, it's probably not good enough.
Yes, I've always felt that we have a few players that don't like kicking goals or can't kick goals in the crunch moments. Schultz is showing a weakness every now and again. Westhoff's another. Montfries is another. And even a little bit of Robbie Gray, but I thought he's come good with that now. But I guess I did say I wonder if Schultz has got an injury that he's getting a jab for, and maybe that's causing a bit of a desensitisation issue for him. I'm only trying to think outside the square here, but he did roll his ankle pretty badly 2 weeks ago, and he hasn't really been 100% right. So I don't even know if that can be an issue with the jabs and numbness or whatever, but it's the only thing I can think that's explainable, because generally he's a pretty bloody good kick.
I think it might be mental. I don't know. It just seemed like...
I think it is mental.
Even he had two, wasn't it? And Wingard had one, which just, when they're not under pressure, when you're 10 goals up, he would have slowed them through, I thought. But
I'm happy to cut Wingard some slack, because he's pretty reliable and he's a very good kick. So it's not
and
often
he does
that
other stuff in the midfield as well. So he's not just meant for kicking goals. But
no, so he doesn't fluff it very often. But I don't know, if you had Mumfries and Westhoff kicking for your life, would you be overly confident?
No, Montfries, yes.
Really?
Yep.
I reckon he's a little bit shaky.
I reckon he's proven in the last, certainly since the start of 2014, that he's quite reliable. And, when we're under pressure, he seems to be just about the only forward we've got that actually stands up and does slot those important goals.
Right. There you go. Maybe my perception's a little bit different to reality. I just thought he was a little bit shaky as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think I think back to the losses we've had, and he always seems to kick a goal at an important time and get us back into the game, but we don't follow through. So I don't know. I think with Montfries, he almost performs better in our losses than he does in our wins.
And going back to Porsche, seeing we're on the forward debate, it's unless you're getting the number 1 or 2 or 3 pick, it's pretty hard to get a key forward, isn't it?
Well, we've got quite a few on our list. A lot of young guys, and none of them have really played a game yet, except for Butcher. But I guess that's the issue we've got. I mean, in terms of our premiership window, when do you see it being open until? Because at the moment we've got Schultz and Westhoff and Ryder and pretty much nothing underneath with which we can have any sort of confidence going forward.
I don't count Westhoff as being a key position forward or anything like that at the moment. He's not. I don't know, he's the one that I'm most disappointed with.
Yeah, but is that Westhoff's fault or is it what they're asking him to do? I mean, in the first quarter, we had, for the bulk of the first quarter, we had, even before Richmond was on top, we had Chad coming off the half-back flank and Westhoff on the half-back line as well. Two of our key forwards were in the defensive aspect of our ground before we even were getting beaten. It was very strange. But, I mean, Westhoff can be a forward if they choose to play him as a forward.
Yeah. I mean, he's only taken 6 marks inside 50 so far this year, so he certainly hasn't been spending a lot of time in goal-scoring range, I guess you'd say. But I don't know. I mean, that's probably our biggest question mark going forward. And I remember back a couple of years we did that big sort of thing on the podcast where we were sort of predicting when our premiership window would open, and we said, well, it probably won't open until another 2 years away, which is now. But that was obviously with the thought that Mason Shaw or Johnny Butcher would have come on and become a bit more of a reliable forward. Shaw hasn't had a chance yet. Neither has Harvey. Neither has Howard. We've got some kids there, and we've got to have our fingers crossed that one of these guys does stand up and does deliver.
I'm not convinced, only because the star forwards sort of at that level would influence the game significantly quite often already, and our boys aren't really doing that. So I think we might have a few players there that could become serviceable forwards, but I don't know about star forwards. I think the only way we're going to be able to do it is either tank till we get a bottom pick, or we're going to just have to do a super trade, which most people are reluctant to do. I mean, when we were in our trough, we were talking about trading someone like a Westhoff or a Hamish Hartlett to try and get that superstar forward. But most people were against it. I wonder, if our form continues on like this year, if that might be different. But then we need a forward structure as well, don't we?
Well, look, let's go on and talk about the game yesterday. Obviously, it was another week, another disappointing loss with Richmond running out easy winners, 11 goals 10 to 5 goals 13. So they won by 33 points. Gus Monfries and Chad Wingard kicked 2 goals each. Rick, do you want to give us a brief overview of the result?
Yeah, well, got to the game about an hour early and started drinking Crowns, but I didn't like the Crowns, so I switched to Peroni. And after about the 4th Peroni, things looked really bright, and I was quite optimistic about the outcome. And then the first quarter came, and I don't know what happened. It started becoming a bit of a blur. But seriously, I don't know. I thought the first couple of minutes we seemed to be switched on, and we sort of were dominating a bit of the play. And then after that, it just sort of went all downhill. Where Richmond followed the template which has been working for the other teams this year, which was to pressure the players that were part of our transitional switch sequence, nice and deep, and then they sagged extra numbers behind the ball, and we obviously really struggled with that situation for the majority of the game. We struggled to get any switch play going, find players with space, and how often were we kicking the ball long with no forward players, and we were just kicking the touch or into space. And as I said in the blog that I wrote today, and I think it's been pointed out by a couple of other people, such as Janus as well, the Freo game was probably the best game for us where we played a game plan against these defensive sides, where we did actually play the possession game plan, and we played it quite well. However, we seem to have abandoned that game plan now, and we just sort of seem to be panicking and just sort of rushing our decision making. And I think if we compare ourselves to the best team in the competition, which is Hawthorn, over the last few years, when they play these ultra defensive sides, they'll maintain the possession of the ball, and even if it's for a 5-minute period, and they'll keep switching the play, finding the short passes, and trying to suck the players back up to us, to the team, and until they pinpoint a pass inside the forward 50. Whereas we just seem to be bombing it long, panicking when we did have that opportunity, and how forwards were being outnumbered, and then obviously with their crummers, they were able to run the ball out nice and easy and conveniently into space, and we just didn't have the structure. I firmly was the opinion of that it was Michael Voss until last week, but after this week's play, I don't think it's Michael Voss. I think it's the coaches all in general. I think they're being out-coached a little bit, and part of me thinks this is why Ken's willing to trust his players so much, because I think that Ken maybe realises that the game plan needs a bit of tweaking as well.
Yep, that's fair enough. And look, statistically, we did a very good job. I mean, you look at the stats page, and we won the disposals, we dominated uncontested possessions, won the clearances, we had 10 more inside 50s, double the hit-outs. Where did it go wrong?
We panicked.
Yep, I agree.
Nick was in the lounge with us, and he was getting angry because we weren't using the first give all the time. We would seem to be flicking back or looking for the perfect pass, and we weren't using our instinct play. And probably our best goal for the night, which was from a fantastic outlet handball from Wingard in a pack situation through to Monfries, who then did a quick kick. That's our style of play: the reflex give, the quick disposal, the quick decision, and quick ball movement. But we seem to be getting the ball, stopping, hesitating, then looking back for a behind the play backward outlet pass, which doesn't seem to be there that often this year. And then the players are sort of rushed, and I think that's what's causing the differential, where we're getting that excessive amount of handballs to kick ratio. Does that make sense?
I thought we had... Yeah, it certainly does. I mean, I thought we had periods of play where we dominated in the open play, but just, we've spoken about on the forum a lot where, we want sort of deep inside 50s, but we're just not getting them. And I mean, you look at the sort of the second and third quarters yesterday, and, we actually had quite a lot of the ball, and I think we had 32 inside 50s to 14 in those two quarters, and we managed to cut the margin by 6 points in that time. And if you're having that much dominance in open play, you've just got to be kicking goals and getting yourself back into the game after a poor first quarter.
It's interesting because it's the inverse to what was happening to us with our victories, wasn't it? Where we were having the lesser amount of inside 50s, but we were getting the result. And we were sort of doing something similar in those wins, where we were sweating back and with extra numbers trying to get the forward run, and these guys are doing it to us now.
Yeah. I mean, we kept Richmond to 5 inside 50s, and we kept them scoreless in the third quarter, and you think normally if that happens at your own home ground, you're going to be piling on the goals. But, we managed 1 goal for the quarter and, just couldn't get ourselves back in the game.
Yeah, there were a lot of those inside 50s of ours which, running on and bombing the ball to no one in particular in the forward line. And I think it was just lack of composure, because there were targets there. They just weren't where we were kicking them.
Yeah. There
was a few times where it was just, if they just dropped their eyes and saw someone 20 metres away, not out in the pocket. And those kicks to touch, which are just sort of, 2005 Choco horrible plays where you just would be goes to no one, and then Richmond rebound.
No, that's right. There was certainly, I remember, probably 4 or 5 occasions where we had a player sort of 25 metres out directly in front of goal, waving their arms around saying, kick it to me. But, we just kicked it deep into the pocket and the ball went out of bounds. And, it sort of deflates when you see a player that open that you would have hoped would have kicked a goal from there. I'm not saying it's a definite, but you would have hoped so. But, and we just weren't able to get the ball to them and weren't able to see those sort of players in that situation. So, I don't know, it seems like we're I don't know if we're being forced to play down the wings and into the pockets, but we certainly seem to love playing down the flanks and down the wings and the pockets this year. And as you said, it's very much reminiscent of sort of latter era Choco, where we just sort of bombed it into the pocket and hoped for a ball up or a throw in so that our rucks could do their business. But we don't have dominant rucks at the moment, and they're not able to get the ball effectively to their midfielders. And I know the stats say different, but even though we had double the hit-outs, I thought Marich absolutely dominated the play yesterday.
Did you find out what the hit-outs to advantage were?
No.
Bloody hell, Macca.
Jeez, I've let the team down again.
You've let the team down again. But I'm with you. It didn't seem to be that noticeable, the ruck influence in that regard.
I think Ryder did okay, but Lovey just didn't seem to get near it. I don't know, or he'd get near it, but would still fall Richmond's way.
Yeah, it's weird. It's just like you said, Macca. It's hard because we're getting the stats. So the stats show that we're in the game, but we're not in the game at the same time. So it's really weird. And I keep going back to this meters game. It's captivating me, that statistic, because again we're losing it, and it's and there seems to be a bit of a correlation there. So I don't know what the correlation is. I'll work it out before I kick the bucket, I'm sure. But I reckon there's something in it, and But look, it's a bit of doom and gloom. But I am optimistic. I think we're going to lose to Melbourne this week, but then I think I think it's going to open up for us.
That's optimism for you.
Well, it is, because I do think that we're going to lose to Melbourne because they're going to be another defensively minded team. And I don't think we're going to be able to. I don't think we've worked out the secret yet. And but then I think it opens up for us because Bulldogs are attacking, Geelong's attacking, and then Carlton, and even Collingwood. And I think we'll be able to. Those teams will open up more to our game style, and I think our confidence will come back when we start playing those teams.
Yeah, we do get dragged down by those lousy teams like Melbourne. Richmond, and hopefully not Carlton in the future. But I don't think we'll bottom out. I think hopefully this is the lowest we go. But I think I'm just trying to remain positive.
So how's the loss of Trengove going to affect us? I'm assuming that he's probably going to be out this week. It's a bad thing, obviously, but. Is it an opportunity for the coaches maybe to bring in an extra small and get rid of that tall, small imbalance that people are talking about while he's injured?
I think Brody will come straight back in and replace him. I think they'll go with a defensive setup of Carlisle, Homsch and Jonas as the three key defenders, and then we'll have Brody, Cracker and Impey sort of supporting them as the flankers.
Did I read today that Cracker was injured and that's why he came off the ground?
Apparently he had a foot injury. I heard that on the radio last night, but Kenny didn't say anything in his press conference about it.
Right. So Trengo's got a foot injury, Polak's got a foot injury, Cracker potentially has a foot injury, Matty White's got a foot/ankle injury. Is there something going on here?
Look, we've had a few tweets. Porsche has tweeted in again and has said, our game plan is based on forcing fast decisions from opponents by moving the ball quickly. When they catch on, it falters. This is why we are bombing it long, because the players can't see anything visible to end the chain, so bad play happens. This is the sort of derived from West Coast offence, which goes... or a series of short gains to disrupt defence. The downside for us is that the NFL uses set plays, whereas we seem to be madly inventing as we go along, which is okay for some, but not for all.
How'd she get that in one tweet?
No, it was across about 7. So,
yeah.
I
was going to say, she's amazing. How'd you get it all in one?
That's it.
Yeah.
And look, Mark Stefanoff has also tweeted in and said, so first we were complacent and overconfident. now we have no confidence. Was the Hawks' first quarter the right place?
Was
Yeah, it was
the Hawks' first quarter the right place?
Mm.
What does that mean?
With the right level of confidence.
I think it's a really weird one. I do think that I was banging on at the start of the year, Macca would probably remember, about the challenge is going to be for us handling expectation and as a club as well as a playing group. And I don't think, well, it's starting to show that we're not handling expectation at all very well. The supporters are doing well, but the players and the coaches aren't delivering. And we are playing like a team that seems to be constricted by pressure. Our flair and creativity has gone, and maybe they are feeling the burden of pressure. And the problem is because we've had so much love from the media as well, and all the media has finally got on board and touted us as a flag fancy. We've caused them to lose face. So the media is sort of going to backlash with us now quite aggressively because they've all tried to support us and we've made them look silly. So it's quite an interesting set of events. But like we've just said, it's not too late to turn it around. And I guess the boys need to work harder. And that's one thing I guess I took out of the Richmond game. The Richmond players did seem to look like they were running a lot harder for space than what the Port boys were.
Yeah, no doubt.
Richmond had the numbers, and I was trying to see where our boys were. And, whose phone's breaking up? Mine?
Probably. All of the above.
I'll shut up so Chris can talk.
No, it's okay. I've lost my train of thought now.
Sorry, I've got a habit of doing that.
No, yeah, it's okay. Pretty much what you said, Rick. I think I've come on here just and everything. I think Rick is just one step ahead of me. No, I do. I think it's mental. I think that I expected that. Expected a top 2 finish this year, and the media's puffed them up, and we've puffed them up, and they've gone and let themselves down, and you only need to lose a few games to then rock your confidence, and I think that's what's happened.
Yeah.
Second guessing every
Let's talk about some of the players. Let's talk about some of the players that might be struggling a little bit at the moment. Hamish Hartlett, again, he had 21 touches, 5 tackles, a couple of clearances, and I don't know, are we being a bit too harsh on Hamish Hartlett? Because for me, once again, I can't remember much of what he did that was positive on the ground. I think it was said on the TV broadcast late in the last quarter that he was kicking at 29% throughout the game. So obviously that's well down on what we expect from Hammer.
I can't say I even noticed him out there, except when there was a bit of a push and a shove, and he was in the midst of that, which is probably what he's good for at the moment. But no, I didn't see much of him at all.
Well, that's the problem with Hamish. And that's been probably the problem with the bulk of his career. He's got the goods, but you don't seem to see it. And I don't know if it's just the role that he's being asked to play, or he's just that good that average is just not noticeable. I don't know, but it is a bit of an anomaly. And I love what Hamish represents as a player and what he has the potential to deliver, but. He should be able to have Robbie Gray effect on a game every game that he's that good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that, but he is struggling at the moment. I don't know. Do you see him possibly going out of the side this week?
No, I don't think so.
No.
I'll keep him in?
Yeah. I just can't see the benefit.
No, I think he's got a long way to fall before he's that. He's on that list, or he's off our list.
Yeah. Can Tommy Jonas count his blessings that Jackson Trengove got injured this week?
Yes, I'd written that down. Lucky for Jonas.
Well, is that enough? Because could Paul Stewart potentially replace Jonas? Because he does seem to be in shocking form.
Yeah, look, he's certainly not the player that we've known and grown to love over the last couple of years, but if Trent goes out, if Cracker is suffering from a foot injury and could possibly be out, I don't think it's a wise move to also drop Jonas and change half of our defence in the 1 week. I just don't think that's a great idea for team structure and game plan and that sort of thing. So I think he will be counting his blessings this week because he just hasn't had any sort of impact in the last 3 or 4 weeks at all.
Mm. Well, I've got one for you, and it's not a player one. And I brought this up the other week when I said we need a bit more physicality and grunt. And I know Ford's very angry about it. But who's flying the flag? Dylan Grimes gets $1,000 for pushing an injured player when he's on the ground, and none of our players go over and support our bloody injured player. What's going on there?
We saw that live. That happened right in front of us, didn't it, Rick? And
it did.
I don't know. I mean, it was just bizarre. I mean, I'm sure there would have been 3 or 4 Port players who were staring right at that spot and saw it happen and just chose not to do anything about it. I mean, he ran directly past Schultz, and I was expecting Schultz to sort of knock him on his ass a bit, but nothing. None of our players gave him anything. And that's just not the Port Adelaide that we've grown to love. I mean, that's not the Port Adelaide of last year. I mean, if that happened last year, he would have been on the ground and there would have been a bit of a melee. But it just didn't happen, and that pretty much sums up, certainly yesterday and pretty much all of our year.
Mm.
Yeah,
you would have hated to have done something like that with a Chad Cornes or a Byron Pickett or a Warren Treadray or even a Josh Franco around or a Damien Hardwick or Josh Carr. I don't think they would have tolerated that sort of behaviour.
God no. I mean, and as I said, even last year, someone would have knocked him over and that would have been it. Don't do it again. And then he wouldn't have done it again. But they had a big sort of mental victory with that, I thought.
Mm. But I mean, what sort of flog is he? I mean, the guy's on the ground like almost unconscious for a little bit there and dazed, and he's trying to get his shit together. And what's he trying to accomplish? By I hope Jackson puts that in the memory bank for next time they play, and I'm sure he will, because I don't think he'd be too impressed by that.
Yeah. Look, Matty Lobe, where's he at? He really struggled in the ruck yesterday and just isn't giving us enough around the ground at all.
No, it's just I don't know. Is he still suffering from the injury that he had earlier on? I don't know. He just seems to be flat. Can he jump even?
I think he's jumping. And look, the stats say that he's getting plenty of hitouts, but I think the influence that he's having with those hitouts is minimal, and he's just not providing us anything at all. And I think someone on the forum said that we need to stop playing him up forward when he's having a rest, because he's just not giving us anything at all. And I've been his lack of marking has been a bugbear of mine for a long time, and it just hasn't improved as the years have gone on.
Yeah, he's a bit symptomatic of the whole side, isn't he? He is just sort of a bit vanilla at the moment, and I guess that's probably a little bit insulting to the players that I'm making that reference to. And I guess I hope that sort of comment is insulting to them, but that's the sort of passion they're exuding, isn't it? They are a bit vanilla at this point in time, and I guess Matt Lobe's strength was not the ruck as much, but it was his follow-up ground ball play, wasn't it? Being able to keep the ball in the contest and lock it in and allow our midfielders to get the ball out. A bit what Shane Mumford's doing now for GWS, just smashing the opposition midfielders, trapping it in and letting their midfielders run it out. And Matty just doesn't seem to be having that effect at this point in time.
Well, look, he had 10 tackles and he's always up there in the tackle stat, and that's probably the best part of his game at the moment, is that he does lock the ball in. But we need more from Matty Lobe. At his best, he's a very good ruckman, and there was a time where he was very, very good around the ground, but it's just not happening for him at the moment. Sam Gray, how did we see his game? Did he sort of justify his selection?
Be careful here, boys.
he probably justified his selection, but he hasn't justified his reselection, I think.
Is it a bit unfair to judge Sam harshly in one game where we had no forward structure whatsoever? He's almost a bit like Cam O'Shea, where he was on a bit of a hiding to nothing with the role that he was given. But I probably would have liked to have seen his tackle stick and be a little bit stronger with that component of his game. That's probably the real downside to his performance on Sunday night. But outside of that, there's not much. The counter argument that was Angus Mumphreys, the other forward pocket, who I thought, especially in the first half, was fantastic and probably one of our better forwards, along with Chad Wingard.
Yeah. Look, I thought Sam Gray had a good first quarter. I thought he laid a couple of crunching tackles and was getting involved. But to be honest, I didn't notice a single thing that he did after quarter time and forgot he was even out there. But I think it's harsh, the criticism that guys like him and Kane Mitchell and Cam O'Shea in the past cop. I mean, they seem to cop a hell of a lot of criticism on social media and on Big Footy in the forums, and I don't think it's at all justified. I mean, these guys are selected as the 21st or 22nd player playing at the time, and when our star players are letting us down, when our bread and butter isn't there. It's hard to be so critical of the guys on the fringe that are coming in and are almost on a bit of a hiding to nothing.
All right, I've got one for you. Alapate Carlisle. That was probably his worst game since 2011, but I'm not going to be critical of him because before this week he was probably in All-Australian form. So, he's had one down game for the year and, it just wasn't a great matchup for him and he just seemed to always be trailing Jack Riewoldt, and I'm pretty disappointed that the coaching staff didn't seem to really change that matchup up at all. I mean, I would have thought Homsch would have been a more natural sort of matchup for him, and I know Homsch was dominating, sort of, floating about as the spare defender, and also had a good game on Griffiths as well. But I don't know. I mean, Riewoldt sort of destroyed us up forward.
You just seem to be out of position all the time.
Yeah, it's one thing to look like you're defending, but you actually have to sort of defend. But I'm with you, Macca. He's had a great year until his injury and pretty much a tough game. So it will be interesting to see how he fights back against Hogan. It's going to be a tough week this week with Hogan and Vanderberg and Dawes up forward for the Melbourne side. So he's going to have his work cut out, especially if his best mate's not playing.
No, very true. And look, let's talk about the best players because there were a couple of players that do deserve to be mentioned. And look, Robbie Gray was probably right up there with the best on ground. He had another 12 clearances, and he just can't stop getting the ball at the stoppages. I mean, I'm just not sure what it is that he's got that very few other players have, but his ability to read the play, whether it's to a winning tap or a losing tap, is just phenomenal.
Yeah, he was back to his good old superstar self, I think. Finding the ball, finding space, hitting targets generally.
He's sort of lacking the recognition this year, I guess, isn't he, because of our overall team performance. But I guess the question mark was he going to deliver on last year's form this year? And he's one of our only players that can probably hold their head high consistently for the whole year.
No doubt. Yep, I agree with that. And look, I guess I'm not sure how the rest of the AFL world have seen his year. I guess they probably think he's been a little bit down, but for a player that's playing as a pure midfielder this year, he hasn't really spent any sort of significant time up forward. I think he's just absolutely dominated in the midfield, and he's doing all the tough stuff. He's consistently getting double figures in clearances, and almost that in tackles as well. And I think it's a fair stat that I think last year he took 40 marks inside 50. So far this year he's only taken 4. So he's certainly not spending that time up forward. And I guess that's what made him so fantastic last year, was that he was still getting those sort of 25 to 30 touches, but also kicking 2 or 3 goals a week. He hasn't had the opportunity to do that so far this year, but he's probably in front of our best and fairest at the moment, I reckon.
So who was your second BOG?
Struggling. I'm struggling. Now, look, Monfries I had up there. I thought he was very dangerous up forward, and as I said earlier in the podcast, he just seems to always bob up when we're struggling and kick a couple of important goals. I thought Chatty Wingard was great, and once again, just like in 2013, he just hits his average every week. 20 touches and a couple of goals, and it's great to see him in this sort of form, and hopefully he does get recognised for higher honours again this year, because I think he deserves it this year. And look, I thought Travis Boak was good, especially in the first half. I thought he had a very good first half, and was certainly trying his best and his hardest to sort of help get us over the line.
Yeah, I liked Monfries and Chad's game. I think Angus gets a bit maligned too quickly by some of the supporters, the typical half-forward sort of syndrome. But to me, Travis has been a bit like Hamish Hartlett this year. He's been getting a bit of the ball, but what's he really doing with it? That's how I feel anyway.
I
Trav's
think
inside work. You go, Chris.
Yeah, sorry. I was just going to say his inside work. I think he's working harder than Hartlett. I think he might not be as effective as what he was when he's at his best, but I think he's still, he's still trying, still working hard. Whereas I don't know if I can say the same about Hamish. Yeah.
I think his inside work has been great this year, Travis Boak, but he isn't getting the quality of outside possession that he was getting in years gone by. And look, I think that's down to the fact that the teams are seriously putting a super hard tag on him, and he has minimal support at the stoppages at the moment. I mean, there's no sort of breakaway clearances for Travis Boak at the moment, and we lack that sort of big-bodied mid that can that can sort of block people and make some space for him. And look, Wine's back in the side. He was very good yesterday, and hopefully he can help with that. And if Andrew Moore can stay fit and not do anything silly and keep performing well in the SANFL, then he'll get his chance. And we know how good he is at doing those sort of blocks and shepherds.
Well, what do you guys think about the coaches? What's going on there? Do they need to take stock?
I mean, it's hard to know if it's game plan. It's hard to know if it's have we sort of overdone the pre-season? Are the players a little bit cooked at the moment? Are they struggling to run? Is that the problem? Or are they unfit? Is that the problem? I mean, there could be 5 or 6 different issues for the reasons for why we're struggling. It's just hard to pinpoint which one is actually the correct one or not. But look, I think it's clear that our midfield structures aren't as good as what they were last year. The midfield isn't running as hard as what they were last year. And certainly our forward line is struggling in terms of structure as well.
So are you laying some of the blame with the coaches?
I think it's all of the above. I think some of it's coaching. I think maybe they took it a little bit easy. I think maybe they may have over-tinkered with the game plan a little bit, thinking that some things needed to change, which probably in the end didn't really need changing. I think some of it's the pre-season and the fitness, and some of it's mental. I think there's definitely a mental side of it. We had Hinkley refused to coach, or not refused to coach, but sort of stepped down from coaching in the pre-season, and was sitting on the sidelines with his arms crossed and his sunglasses on, and maybe that maybe that sort of image wasn't all that great. Yeah.
Hitchy's just messaged me again on Facebook. He's getting a bit tired of the negativity on the boards. I can't read the rest of the message. Sorry, Graham. I'll hang up on the phone. But it's, I guess, our form is a little bit symptomatic of the pre-season, isn't it? Because the worrying sign for me in the pre-season was there was minimal transition play, and we had a stagnant game plan where we were just seeming to bomb down the line, and we didn't really give a crap about the pre-season games. And unfortunately, that seems to have been brought through into the season in general. Whereas if we compare it to the previous 2 pre-seasons, we came out with full of run and aggression and an attacking game plan, and then that transcended through into the home and away season. So maybe there is a bit of a mindset thing there. I don't know. I think you guys have been a bit critical on the Hinkley with the Sonny sitting on the side. I think he was there just sort of, giving Nix a bit of control and coaching license, and he was there just sitting back watching the watching the team and seeing how the boys perform. So I think that might be little bit too deep into it. But I think the coaches need to have a bit of accountability here. As you said, Macca, with the stats earlier, we're getting enough of the ball and we're doing the hard things. So all I can keep thinking is our game plan needs tweaking and needs adjusting, and then hopefully it might be right from there.
What are your thoughts, Chris?
I think it's all Michael Voss's fault. Hashtag sack Voss. No, I think coming out of the preseason, it's that lackadaisical play that we've had is just sort of seemed to stuck, and we haven't shaken that. I don't know what they've really changed. It's something's not right, and something smells, and it's like we've been playing Plan B rather than Plan A. It's not the same. It's just not quite right compared to how we had it last year, and I don't know whether that's players as much as it is coaching, but yeah, I don't know. Something's not quite right.
Do you know what I would like, and I'm a big fan of? Diagonal kicks. We don't seem to be doing many diagonal forward kicks. We're either going straight down the line or straight across. So we're doing the rectangle rather than kicking a triangle. And the reason I say that is because obviously diagonal kicks are always good for square zones and finding gaps within those zones. And I know it sounds a bit silly, but we're not really doing a lot of those sort of forward diagonal 45-degree kicks to try and find space. And I'd really like to see the coaches sort of implore the players to do that, and hopefully that might help sort of break through this deep zone that we're having to encounter on a weekly basis.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I'd like to also see us handball the rhombus or even a dodecahedron every now and then as well.
It's called triangulation, Macca.
No, you've raised a very good point there. We do sort of seem to go either straight forward or straight across, and very minimal sort of working the lines, I guess you'd have to say. Obviously, it was Kane Cornes' farewell game as well. It was great to see pretty much all the crowd stay to the end and clap and cheer him off. I thought that was fantastic. And look, this was almost going to be my hate, was the fact that he was just about best on ground again in his last game. He kept Trent Cotchin to just the 17 touches. I think he only had 6 touches at half time, which was a great performance for Kane. Keeping one of the form players in the competition this year to absolutely minimal influence once again.
Yeah, he's a champion, and we are going to miss him. It's a pity he's had to go now, but it is what it is. So, no, we're gonna have to see who can fill in that spot, and I don't know who we've got that can. And that's probably a discussion for another time. But he's. I know he's saying he knew his time was coming to an end, but this week was he was as good as he ever has been, I think. So
yeah. No, certainly left in style, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And I would tell you what a build-up. I made comment about the build-up for Kane. It was like Kane all week. It was amazing how much love he actually got. And, it was a fitting farewell for outside of the win. I thought the supporters were great. And well done to Richmond as well, even though I hate them, for queuing up at the end there and giving him recognition, and Lady and Damien Hardwick gave him a bit of a hug and a slap, so they obviously remember their teammates from years gone by. And look, we didn't get the chocolates for him, but I'm with you, he had a great game, and at least he can go out holding his head high. And now it's on to the boys, where Brad Ebert reckons they're going to share the load in trying to replace him, and probably Brad Ebert's another one that's sort of flying a bit under the radar at the moment. We're not noticing his line-breaking running that we were from the last 2 seasons.
Yep, that's true. Very true. Look, Porsche has tweeted in and said, "Yep, Vossi's fault. Hashtag hangaranga."
That takes out Lovey as well, so that's
it does. That's it.
Well, isn't Adam Greaves a ranger too?
He is, yep. Suddenly we've got half a side here and we're struggling. So
Yeah, we're in trouble.
that's it. Well, look, we're currently sitting in 13th spot, not where we wanted to be at the start of the season. We've won 3, we've lost 5. Pretty poor percentage of 86%. Can we turn this around? Can we make the finals? And can we impact in the finals?
Yes.
Yes, and maybe.
Well,
But will
look, we're
we?
only a game and percentage out of the 8 at the moment. It's still very early days. And look, I don't think the top 8's set by any stretch of the imagination. I expect West Coast to drop down the ladder. I expect Greater Western Sydney to drop down the ladder. Collingwood as well. Possibly Adelaide. Possibly Richmond as well. I think the only 2 teams that are probably short of a top 4 spot at the moment are Freo and Sydney. I think it's going to be hard to knock them off the top 2. But look, I mean, Hawthorn are struggling at the moment as well. North Melbourne, Port Adelaide. I mean, there's still going to be plenty of spots available in the finals if we're good enough to make it.
It's an anomaly of the draw. We've had teams which have had very, very soft draws, and teams like us and Hawthorn that have had extremely difficult draws, and rightly so. A couple of the best performing teams there. So, it's weird. We really need, and then it's not even going to be subjective then, because we actually play a couple of teams, I think, like the Bulldogs, before we actually play twice before we play a team for the first time. So, I guess we need to just start winning, don't we? And otherwise it's going to be one of those seasons where we're a mathematical chance to make the finals. And anything's still possible. So, and we've shown, and as I said it last week, we've had runs of games in the last 2 years where we've strung good games in sequence together. So we just don't want to be so far behind the pack, sort of like what Richmond did last year, that we're just sort of out of contention. But you never know. Footy's a funny game, and we've got a reasonably skilled side. We just need to make a few adjustments.
That's it. I think we can definitely turn it around. I think top 4's probably gone. I think you look at history, and generally top 4 teams, you can only afford to lose 6 games, which means we've got 1 left in hand if we want to make top 4, which is looking very, very doubtful at the moment. But look, I think top 8 is definitely still on the cards. I think we'll probably still make the finals. Whether we can impact when we actually do make the finals, that's just up in the air. I mean, who expected us to beat Collingwood away in 2013? Who expected us to beat Freo away last year? So anything can happen when you're there. Obviously, it won't be the result that we were hoping for pre-season, but I don't know. I guess if we do sort of make the 8 and go out in a elimination final or a semi-final, how do we see that sort of season?
I'd be happy to make finals.
Happy to make the finals, but I think if we don't, well, I still think we should be aiming for a prelim if we can finish fifth or sixth.
Boys, haven't you listened to anything? Rein in the expectations. And stop. I think we all just need to stop having the expectations of finals, and I think we just need to focus on one game at a time.
No, you're right.
And maybe, and potentially, we should just draw a line in the sand, and see where it goes from there.
I like
another line in the sand.
That's just about every cliche in the book there, Rick. I love it.
One game at a time.
Yeah, but honestly, I'm not even thinking about finals anymore, because I will get disappointed, and so I'm not even going to have an expectation of making finals, and I'm just going to go into games just looking at an expectation of improved performance. So this week I want to see us have a much stronger game plan against another uber defensive side, and see how we can get around that. And even if we don't win, I just want to make sure that we have a very competitive game, and at least that way we look like we're on an upward trajectory. I think that's the most important thing for us to just look at for this week onwards.
Yeah, I think a win this week would certainly get us back on track, and who knows what will happen from there.
Absolutely.
Just quickly before we sign off, was the Hawthorn versus Sydney game the game of the year so far?
I
It was
only
awesome.
saw half of it, so I didn't catch the whole game, but may have been.
Yeah, I watched it. I thought it was a great game, and it was great to watch Hawthorn have a bit of a choke there in key moments. So well done to Sydney, and with Tippett and Franklin not really having that much influence in the game either. But it was a cracker, and I just get frustrated at the Cyril loving. It just gets over the top sometimes.
No, for me it was probably the game of the year as well. I mean, what a fantastic finish, and it was great to see Sydney get over the line, and it certainly didn't look like it was going to go that way with a couple of minutes left when Hawthorn were 12 points up. But they work hard, Sydney, and they well deserved that win.
How good was McVeigh at the end there? That his last quarter.
Turn back the clock, mate. That was a vintage Luke McVeigh. Jared McVeigh performance.
And even Adam Goods. I know a lot of the Port supporters don't like him, but I tell you what, I would have been happy if Adam Goods played a career for us, because he's a great player, and he turned back the clock as well. And not only that, there was a bit of physicality from Hawthorn, and Adam was there flying the flag for his teammates. So probably an example that he could show some of our boys.
No doubt. Well, lads, we might sign off there and call it a night.
Cool.
I reckon.
Awesome.
Chris,
Onwards and
thanks for
upwards.
coming on, buddy.
Thanks for having me. Sorry I can't add any positivity to this dreadful,
Yes, you can.
dreadful
Macca,
week.
where's the iTunes feed? Hurry up, Macca.
Yeah, come on.
Crying out loud.
Have you loaded it up yet?
I have. It's ready to go. It's there. Rick,
No
as always,
worries.
buddy.
Power! Power!
Up go the umbrellas. Clifford's fifth kick. Oh, a towering torpedo, but that's a massive kick. Oh, what a kick! A goal is second. Must have gone 65 metres. And Port Adelaide moved to 3-5 to the Bay's goal.